The whisper before the storm. No matter where you look, news headlines, social feeds, or late-night conversations, one question keeps returning like a cold breeze before a storm. Are these the signs of the end times? For centuries, scholars, believers, and even skeptics have studied the prophecies, searching for clues hidden in the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad about what will unfold before the final hour. But the truth is, the end doesn't arrive suddenly. It comes in waves, minor signs that slip quietly into the world, followed by major signs that shake the earth, the skies, and every soul living upon them. This first chapter begins with the signs we're already living through, the minor signs. And whether we admit it or not, they're getting louder. The Prophet described a time when knowledge would be taken away not by people forgetting, but by scholars passing away one after another, leaving behind voices with loud opinions but empty wisdom. Today, you can open your phone and scroll through millions of experts, yet very few guide with truth. He described a time when people would chase wealth like its oxygen, when greed would become normal, when halal and haram would feel blurred, a time when hearts would be hard and tongues would be sharp. Look around. People hustle day and night, yet peace feels further away than ever. He warned of widespread immorality, things once hidden becoming entertainment. Sins that once brought shame now bring followers, likes, and views. Modesty fading, respect collapsing, families cracking under pressure. Each of these is part of those subtle tremors before the real earthquake. He mentioned tall buildings so tall that the people who built them would compete with each other, racing to touch the clouds. Not long ago, this sounded impossible. Today, it's a headline. New tallest building announced. Again, he spoke of time seeming to pass faster, years feeling like months, months like weeks. Ask anyone today, when did this year even start? And they'll answer with a tired smile, I swear it felt like yesterday. These signs aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to awaken you. Because the minor signs are not just warnings, they are reminders. They whisper, prepare your heart before the world changes forever. When the world starts cracking from within, the end times don't begin with explosions in the sky. They begin quietly deep inside societies, inside families, inside the human heart. And as the minor signs grow louder, the world moves into a phase the Prophet Muhammad described with chilling precision. A time when chaos becomes normal. We're entering the stage where cracks in humanity start spreading like fractures in old glass. The Prophet said there would come a time when killing would become so common that the killer wouldn't know why he killed, and the victim wouldn't know why he was killed. Today, every news cycle carries the same headlines: random violence, senseless shootings, wars that start for reasons no one fully understands. It feels like the world's moral compass has been shattered. He said trust would vanish. People would hand responsibility not to the deserving, but to the loudest voices, the richest pockets, and the most influential personalities. Look around. Corruption is not hidden, it's a trend. Scandals are entertainment. Lies spread faster than truth. Even leadership, in many places, feels like a game show instead of a duty. He warned that families, the backbone of society, would begin falling apart. Children would disrespect parents. Parents would betray children. Relationships would feel temporary, breakable, replaceable. And in a world obsessed with instant gratification, nothing feels sacred anymore. He described the rise of widespread confusion fitna, time when people would wake up as believers and go to bed as disbelievers, shaking under the pressure of trends, ideologies, and the fear of being alone in truth. Today, standing for values feels like swimming against a violent current. He foretold the increase of natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, storms hitting one after another. Look at the world right now. Drought on one side, overflowing floods on the other. The earth itself is uneasy, like a chest breathing heavily before crying out. And then comes one of the most dangerous signs: the glorification of false leaders and corrupt influencers. People begin to follow individuals who appear confident but lead them straight into darkness. Charisma replaces character. Style replaces sincerity. Morality becomes optional. These aren't just predictions from centuries ago. These are headlines. These are realities. These are the cracks that warn us. The minor signs are almost complete. Because once the world is unstable enough, once confusion spreads, like wildfire, the stage becomes ready for the major signs. The events that will shake the earth in ways humanity has never seen. The world on the edge of a breaking point. Before the dial appears, the world doesn't just weaken, it collapses into a state of fear, confusion, and desperation so intense that people begin searching for any voice, promising stability. This chapter is about that moment, the moment humanity stands on the edge of a breaking point. The Prophet Muhammad described a time when global conflict would spread like a wildfire, small fights turning into large wars, nations rising against nations, and entire regions drowning in tension. And what's terrifying is that these conflicts don't always start with armies. Sometimes they start with rumors, misinformation, and hatred magnified through the digital world. He said the Hajj mass killing would become widespread. Not war, not battles, but chaotic violence, where no one understands who the enemy even is. Today, it's becoming normal to see entire cities turned to ashes, families displaced, and innocent lives lost over conflicts that didn't even exist a few decades ago. Then comes economic breakdown. The Prophet mentioned times of severe financial hardship where the rich become richer and the poor feel abandoned, where inflation rises, resources shrink, and people begin selling their faith, their values, even their loved ones for survival. This imbalance creates the perfect environment for a false savior to rise. He warned of years filled with deception, years when truth feels like a rumor, and lies become the foundation of people's beliefs. A time when entertainment distracts the world from its own destruction. A time when people follow influencers more than scholars, and emotions more than evidence. He described the Middle East, particularly Sham, the region including Syria, Palestine, Jordan, and Lebanon, as the heart of many end times events. Wars, instability, oppression, everything aligning exactly the way the Prophet said they would. And then there's famine and scarcity. People will struggle for food and water. Political chaos, war, and environmental collapse will push humanity into desperation. When people are starving, hopeless, and terrified, they become vulnerable to manipulation. This is the moment the world becomes ready for the biggest trial ever to walk the earth. The Dajjal, a deceiver so powerful, so convincing, and so dangerous that every prophet before Muhammad warned their people about him. The world is not destroyed suddenly. It is softened, wounded, weakened, and then he arrives. The veil of deception, the rise of the Dajjal. There are trials, and then there is the trial. A fitness so terrifying that every prophet from Adam to Isa warned their people about it. And now, as the world collapses under chaos, hunger, and fear, the stage becomes perfectly aligned for the arrival of Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, the greatest deceiver humanity will ever face. He does not appear quietly. His emergence is like a storm ripping through what's left of a broken world. The Prophet Muhammad described him as a one-eyed man, with the word kafir, disbeliever, written across his forehead. Every believer will recognize it, but everyone blinded by desire, greed, or confusion will follow him. What makes the Dajjal dangerous is not just his appearance, it's his power. He will perform miracles that seem impossible. He will command the sky to rain, and it will rain. He will order the earth to produce crops, and fields will bloom instantly. Entire regions will follow him simply because he gives them food when they're starving. But it's all deception. The Prophet warned us. He will have paradise and hellfire with him, but his paradise is actually fire, and his fire is actually paradise. That is the level of illusion he brings. He will travel the world at a speed no human has ever witnessed, like clouds, pushed by furious wind. Every land he steps into will shake under his influence, except Mecca and Medina. Angels guard those cities, and the Dajjal cannot enter, but that doesn't stop him from trying. He will camp near Medina, shaking it with earthquakes so powerful that hypocrites and weak-hearted people will run out toward him, proving their loyalty to the world instead of the truth. He will target the vulnerable, those who lost hope, those who are emotionally shattered, those who crave stability. With one hand, he'll offer wealth, safety, food, and illusion, and with the other, he'll demand faith, obedience, and worship. This era becomes the ultimate test. Follow the deceiver and gain temporary comfort, or resist him and possibly lose everything except your soul. His influence spreads so fast, so deeply, that the world reaches a point where survival itself feels like a miracle. But this darkness doesn't last forever, because another figure is destined to rise, one who will stand against the Dajjal. The dawn of justice, the rise of Imam Mahdi. When the world is drowning in chaos, injustice, and deception, when people feel like truth has no home left on earth, this is when a new light rises from the darkness. A leader promised in the Hadith, a man from the family of the Prophet, Imam Mahdi. He doesn't appear as a king, a warrior, or a global celebrity. He appears as a humble man in Mecca, unaware of the destiny written for him. The Prophet said he will resemble the messenger in character, not in appearance. A man of justice, humility, and unshakable truth. But the world finds him, not the other way around. During a time of turmoil, when people search desperately for leadership, a group of righteous believers will discover him near the Kaaba. They will recognize him not because of fame or miracles, but because of the unmistakable signs described in the Hadith. They will insist he is the promised Mahdi, and he will refuse again and again out of humility. But destiny cannot be declined. Between the Black Stone and the Maqam Ibrahim, he will finally accept the pledge, and that moment marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. Almost immediately, the world shifts. Forces hostile to him, powerful unjust armies, move toward Mecca to crush this emerging leader. But before they arrive, the earth itself rebels. A massive earthquake swallows the entire approaching army, leaving the world shocked and terrified. This event becomes the undeniable proof that Imam Mahdi is not just a leader. He is the chosen one for this era. Under his leadership, justice returns like fresh rain on dry land. Oppression collapses. The weak find protection. Wealth is distributed fairly, and people who lost faith in humanity begin to believe again. But it's not just political stability he brings. The Mahdi prepares the world spiritually. He awakens hearts, strengthens belief, and unites people under the banner of truth. This unity becomes crucial because the greatest threat, Dajjal, is already spreading his shadow across the world. Imam Mahdi's arrival and the Dajjal's rise happen almost simultaneously, creating a global tension unlike anything ever experienced. The final showdown between truth and deception draws closer with each passing moment. But the Mahdi is not meant to fight this battle alone. There is someone destined to descend from the heavens, someone whose return will change the world forever. The return from the heavens, descent of Isa Jesus. When humanity feels cornered, when the Dajjal's influence spreads across continents, when truth seems outnumbered, and when the believers stand exhausted under the leadership of Imam Mahdi, this is the moment when a miracle that has been promised for centuries finally unfolds. The sky itself becomes a witness. The Prophet Muhammad described it with precision. Isa Jesus will descend at the white minaret in the east of Damascus, resting his hands on the wings of two angels. His appearance is unlike anything the world has ever seen. Drops like pearls fall from his hair, though it isn't wet. A fragrance follows him, and every disbeliever who inhales it will perish instantly. His presence alone is power. He doesn't descend as a new prophet. He descends as a follower of the final messenger, standing with the believers, not above them. The first thing he does is seek out Imam Mahdi, who prepares to lead the prayer. But Isa places a gentle hand on his shoulder and says, "The prayer is for you to lead. You are the leader of this nation." This moment becomes a symbol of unity to great figures. One message, one ummah. Isa comes with a mission to destroy the Dajjal, not through armies, but through divine power. When the Dajjal hears of his descent, he panics. His arrogance vanishes. His deception collapses. He flees toward Palestine, running through the lands he once controlled effortlessly. The believers chase after him, with Isa at the front, swift, unstoppable, fearless. Near the gate of Luth, the Dajjal's journey ends. Isa catches him, and with a single strike, ends the greatest fitna in human history. The world breathes for the first time in years. Darkness finally meets its destroyer, but his mission isn't over. Isa breaks the cross not symbolically, but literally. He kills the swine. He abolishes false ideologies that twisted his message. He restores truth, that he was not God, not the Son of God, but a prophet of Allah. Peace begins to spread again. Justice returns. The world, once drowning in confusion, starts healing. But this era of peace will not last forever. There is another force, destined to rise, one that shakes the earth and tests humanity once more. The unleashed storm, the rise of Gog and Magog. Just when the world begins to breathe again, when the Dajjal is defeated, when Isa and Imam Mahdi restore justice, and when peace spreads across lands like sunlight after years of darkness, a new terror awakens, a terror not born from deception, but from sheer, unstoppable force. The prophet described them with only one name, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, to tribes locked away behind a divine barrier for thousands of years. A barrier built by Dulkarnain, a king empowered by Allah, who sealed them between two mountains with iron and molten copper. Their numbers were so enormous, their destruction so widespread, that the world prayed they would never be released. But near the end times, the barrier begins to crack. Gog and Magog erupt into the world like a flood bursting through a dam. They don't negotiate. They don't seek power. They only destroy. They swarm across lands with a speed and hunger that humanity has never witnessed. The prophet said their numbers are so massive that for every one human, 999 will be from them. They drink entire rivers dry. They consume everything in their path, crops, animals. Even the land itself looks scarred after they pass. No wall, no army, no weapon can stop them. Humanity has weapons, technology, strategy. But Gog and Magog have overwhelming numbers and a wild, uncontrollable ferocity. Even Isa does not fight them directly. He leads the believers to a mountaintop refuge where they pray for survival. And those prayers become the most powerful weapon left. Our response to the doer, not with armies, but with something far simpler. Worms, insects tiny, creatures sent into the necks of Gog and Magog. Their massive bodies collapse instantly. The earth becomes silent again, but the aftermath is overwhelming. Their bodies fill the land. The stench becomes unbearable. Birds as massive as camels are sent to remove them. Rain pours down like never before, washing the earth clean, restoring life to a planet that felt doomed just days earlier. This moment marks another shift in human history. Peace returns, stronger than before. The world enters its most blessed era under the leadership of Isa. But even this golden age has an ending. As humanity rebuilds, as hearts soften, another sign approaches, one that signals the world is nearing its final breaths. The last light fades, the departure of Isa Jesus. After the destruction of Gog and Magog, the world enters a period unlike anything humanity has ever experienced. Peace stretches across continents. Justice becomes the norm. Hatred disappears. Wealth is shared. Crime vanishes. Even animals live in harmony. For the first time in centuries, humanity understands what true tranquility feels like. At the heart of this era stands Isa, guiding the world with gentleness, wisdom, and unwavering truth. People follow him not out of fear, but out of love. Under his leadership, the true message of Allah shines across nations. The earth becomes a place the prophets once dreamed of. But perfection is temporary. This world is not meant to last forever. The Prophet Muhammad told us that Isa will live on earth for a number of years after defeating the Dajjal. And then, like every human, he too will return to his Lord. His death does not come with chaos or fear. It comes peacefully, quietly, like the setting of a sun that has given the world its last warmth. The believers will pray over him and bury him in the earth, and the world will feel the weight of his departure like a deep, collective sigh. And this is when the shift begins. With Isa gone, the world slowly drifts away from purity. Faith continues, but the strength of belief starts weakening. Generations pass, and with each generation, the hearts grow softer and then weaker. The Prophet said the Quran itself will eventually be lifted from the pages and from the hearts of people. Imagine a world where no verse is remembered, no recitation is heard, no guidance remains. Signs accumulate quietly. Good people pass away one after another until only the worst remain. Honesty fades, kindness disappears, modesty becomes forgotten. Even the prayer once, the lifeline of the believer, stops being performed. And then one of the most chilling signs unfolds. The Kaaba will be destroyed. A man from Abyssinia, described as having thin legs, will tear it down stone by stone. The holiest place on earth empty, unprotected, abandoned. The world, once full of faith, begins to enter a spiritual night. This is the beginning of the final decline. The stage is preparing for the last signs, the final events that will shake the universe itself. The final countdown echoes before the trumpet. As the world drifts deeper into spiritual darkness, the final signs of the last day begin to unfold, each one louder, heavier, and more terrifying than the one before. These signs are not warnings. They are declarations, announcements that humanity has reached the edge of time. The first of these is the Smoker Massive, global cloud sent by Allah. It will spread across the entire world, lingering for 40 days. Believers will feel it lightly, like a cold or discomfort. But the disbelievers, they will choke, suffer, and collapse under its weight. The air itself becomes a reminder that the world is no longer a place of mercy. Then comes the beast, a creature unlike anything the world has ever seen. Not symbolic, not metaphorical, a real being that emerges from the earth, speaking to humanity. It will mark people placing a clear sign on the forehead of the believer and another on the disbeliever. After this moment, faith is no longer hidden. Belief and disbelief become visible. Next comes one of the most shocking events: the sun rising from the west. When this happens, the laws of nature will break. Every scientist, every skeptic, every doubter will stand frozen in disbelief. But by then, it will be too late. The Prophet said that once the sun rises from the west, the door of repentance will close forever. No prayer, no forgiveness, no return to faith will be accepted. The world has entered its final phase. Soon after, a gentle wind will sweep across the earth. But this wind brings a mercy only for the believers. It will take their souls peacefully, leaving only the most corrupt, the most immoral, the most wicked people behind. These are the people who will witness the true horror of the final hour. And then there is the fire massive, roaring blaze that begins from Yemen and drives humanity toward a single destination. People will flee, pushing each other, trembling in terror as the fire chases them across continents. The world is no longer a home. It is a countdown, every second echoing louder, every sign pushing humanity closer to its final moment. The stage is set. The last generation stands alone. And what comes next is the event every soul will face. The trumpet. When time dies, the trumpet and the day of rising. And now, the final moment arrives. A moment every prophet warned about, every scripture described, and every soul is destined to witness. The world stands silent. The sky is still. The mountains freeze like trembling giants. Humanity corrupt and reckless moves under a dark, heavy sky, unaware that time itself is taking its last breath. Then the trumpet is blown. The sound isn't just noise, it is a force, a cosmic command, a roar that tears through every corner of existence. The earth shakes as if trying to escape. Mountains crumble into dust. Oceans explode. Stars scatter like sparks from a dying flame. The sun dimming. The moon collapsing. Gravity fails. Reality breaks. Every living being drops where they stand. Angels fall. Jinn vanish. Animals collapse. The most powerful kings die like leaves in a storm. Entire civilizations disappear in a heartbeat. This is the death of the world. Silence follows a silence deeper than space itself. Nothing moves. Nothing breathes. Only Allah remains. But the story isn't over. After a period known only to him, Allah commands the second blowing of the trumpet. This time, the universe isn't destroyed. It awakens. The earth reshapes into a flat, endless plain. Darkness lifts. Light spreads. And graves burst open as every human being ever created is brought back to life. Billions rise confused, terrified, overwhelmed just as the Quran described, as if scattered moths. People run without direction. Mothers abandon children. Friends forget friends. No one cares for anyone else. Every soul is afraid of one thing only, their fate. Angels descend in rows majestic, uncountable, surrounding humanity from every side. The skies tear open, and then, carried by angels, comes the throne of Allah. The entire creation stands still. The records of deeds are released, flying through the air. Some hands catch them in the right hand, faces glowing with relief. Others receive them behind their backs, faces darkened with horror. The scales of justice are set. No bribe, no excuse, no escape. Every deed, every word, every intention is weighed. And then begins the crossing of the Sirata bridge, thinner than a hair, sharper than a sword, stretched over hellfire. Believers cross with light guiding their steps. Others fall screaming, regretting, wishing for one more chance they will never receive. Paradise opens for the fortunate. Eternal peace, endless joy. Hell roars for the damned. Eternal regret, endless fire. This is the end of the world and the beginning of forever.